people. Day 25. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, today's Friday. How stoked are we about that? I'm super stoked, all right? Got a lot planned for the weekend. It's going to be a big weekend. Going to do that live stream tomorrow. That'll be fun. And, you know, I'm working on trying to figure out how to get them chats, you know, displayed on the screen. I'm going to figure that out. Just watch. It'll be great. Well, day 25, people. How you doing? How you feeling today? Feeling good? You feeling stoked? You strong? You got that energy, that eye wall of internal locus of control? Is that strong? And the hurricane of who you are. You're going to let it loose on the world this weekend. Let it loose today. Have a great day today, man. A lot of exciting stuff going on. A lot of exciting stuff. A lot of stuff to stoke that fire with. And give yourself permission to be excited about it, okay? Jump on board with something and be excited, all right? That's contagious. It'll spread throughout your whole day, your whole week, your whole personality to everything. And then it'll automatically improve everything. That's what we want. Now, I know y'all think I'm just woo-wooing over here, but I'm not. You know how I know that? Because if you choose to be a sourpuss, that's the only flavor you taste. Sour. Ugh, don't like that. I asked the Ravens if they like sour. They said, hell no. Give us that meat. I want to be excited about that barbecue. I fried that chicken yesterday, and I had some chicken. And a little bit of popcorn too, because, you know, I made some more of that caramel popcorn. And I put them chicken bones out there to feed the Ravens and the popcorn. And I tell you, they threw a wild party last night, man. I heard them drinking their Tostitos or Tito's last night and throwing back some cervezas and just being all rowdy out there. So it made me happy to hear that they were so happy. That, you know, that kind of stuff's awesome. I love it. Now, we talked yesterday about that perpetual energy machine. You know, you got to do that, right? You got to have that perpetual energy machine. It exists in every single one of us, and you got to hook it up the right way. Don't let it be a perpetual machine that digs you into the hole, because that's terrible. You don't want that, all right? We want a perpetual energy rocket to shoot us up into the sky so that we can achieve the goals that we want for ourselves. Really having an adventure of life instead of just being a workhorse. Can you imagine that? Just being a workhorse and pulling a plow your whole life? You know, walking in the mud, and that's all you see is that 1 acre that you're plowing the field, and you get put back in your barn and you get your fucking moldy hay, and that's what you come to expect in life? Yeah, don't do that, man. Get excited. Become a stallion. Become a Pegasus. Go out there and, you know, run on them fields, them bright green fields, and then fly into the sky and, you know, have an adventure for yourself. You know, be excited and pull some people that you love with you, you know. Now, I was thinking last night, we were talking a little bit about art and an artist and what that is, you know. And not everybody's an artist, people. I got to tell you that. I just saw the Ravens over there running. They just discovered that I put some food out for them, so they're jumping across the driveway. It's pretty funny to watch. You can hear their little claws, the little nails, tit tat tat tit tat 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 tat. And I love hearing that. I love hearing it because they're excited. I can tell they're excited about it. They have that genuine desire. But you know, we were talking about artistry. You know, not everything that people create is art. You get what I'm saying? You can create visual you know, art, but it's not art. It's just, that word is so all-encompassing, you know, and it means so many things to so many different people. And I'll give you a little analogy here. Have you ever gone into a restaurant and like a fast food joint, and you know, you have a standard. Maybe it's Five Guys, maybe it's In-N-Out, maybe it's Burger King, maybe it's McDonald's, maybe it's Popeyes, maybe who knows what it is, right? And you have a standard, and you go in there, and you're used to that standard. You know, you pay your $10 or whatever, and you get your grub, and then you go in there, and then the standard keeps going lower, right? You're eating food; it's food the whole time. Now, have you ever gone to like a Applebee's or a Olive Garden or, you know, a Outback Steakhouse or something like that? You know, that's definitely a lot better than, you know, the McDonald's or the Burger King. It's still food, right? And then have you ever gone to like a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse or you know, one of those Flemings or something, a nice steakhouse, you know, chain steakhouse. It's a lot better than Olive Garden, a lot better than Applebee's. It's food, and you know, you can get excited about it. If you take a date there or whatever, she's going to be excited about it, right? And then have you ever gone to a Michelin star restaurant? If you haven't, you ought to go. You have to go at least once. It makes the Ruth's Chris look like a McDonald's. Okay, now we're starting to approach the concept of artistry. You got me, people? Have you ever gone to a 3-star Michelin restaurant? It's not a 1-star, it's not a 2-star, it's a 3-star. Where when you go to the restaurant, you don't even know what the hell you're eating, but it's such an experience. It's like the enlightenment from God. As the clouds have parted, and you know, the flavors in your mouth and the presentation, and it is an experience that you'll remember for the rest of your life. That's art. That's what an artist is supposed to be. And an artist gives you something that you didn't even know you needed, but you desperately needed it. But you didn't know you needed it. They give you something that resonates so strongly inside of you that you didn't even know existed. That's what an artist is, okay? Now, how do you distinguish between art and all the other stuff? You know, how do you classify that, right? Art is something that resonates and gives power to the individual. Propaganda and everything else take that power from the individual and force you to give it to a group. Okay? So it's an energy transfer. You get what I'm saying, people? Great art gives the energy, which is truth, and it resonates with us all because we all own the truth, right? The propaganda artwork or the propaganda visuals, they force us to comply with a narrative or with lies, and by compliance, we yield our power to that group. So we give our energetics to that group or whatever. That's how you got to measure this stuff, right? You have to ask yourself the question: Does that give energy to me? Does that resonate with the absolute truth of what we all experience and they're the human condition, or does it strip it from me and take it from me and make me comply and agree with a group that I don't even know or understand, or maybe I understand it or whatever, but it's only temporal. You know, art is not temporal. You know, the word temporal means for a time, right? A beautiful landscape isn't just beautiful because it's trendy today. A beautiful landscape is beautiful because landscape is always beautiful. The nature in landscape, it's not a trend, right? It's an absolute truth, okay? If we look at a sunset, it's always beautiful. It's not just because, oh, the pink is so in right now. I just love pink and orange, so, I love, and then maybe a couple years later, it's like, oh, no, I can't stand sunsets. I'm into blacks and grays now, That's not how any of this works. We as humans are pre-programmed genetically to appreciate certain things, to love certain things, right? That's artwork. That communication is artwork. Tapping into something that we didn't even know existed inside of us to give us a better understanding of who we are as people, that's artwork. That's the job of the artist. That's why artists are so dangerous. That's why they're feared. It's because they understand these things and they tap into them and they give it back to us as humanity. They're our champions. They're our allies. They go places that we're afraid to go. They endure the pain that we're afraid to endure. They learn the lessons we're afraid to endure, and then they come back and give us the wisdom so that we can be incentivized, or that's not the right word, so that we can be enlightened, but that's not the right word, so that we can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraged, so that we can be encouraged to stand up, so that we can be inspired. That's the word I'm looking for. So that we can be inspired to display these characteristics that they they championed for us, and so that we can adapt and then we can join in the fight of our own humanity, of making our life better and the life better for our family and the people that we love. That's what artwork is. That's what it does. It pierces. It pierces through narratives and connects with and wakes us up to the truth that already exists within us, because we all experience it, because we all live this human condition, okay? That's how important artists are. They don't exist just in the visual arts. They exist in all arts. But that's what a real artist is. That's what a real chef is. That's what a real musician is. That's what a real mechanic is, okay? That's what a real baker is. That's what a real anybody who is passionate about the honesty and the truth of creating the quality of product they want, and they want to give that to their customer, to their patron, to their client, to their neighbor. Hell, maybe you just print up a whole bunch of stickers out of the money of your own pocket and you give it out for free. That's a real artist. You catch my drift? You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go ahead and let's move on. We're going to go ahead and get to this watercolor real quick, because we're at the second stage of it, people. Now, I got to take my squirt bottle. I got to wake up my watercolors, of course, because they're all asleep. They're all asleep. We're going to come down here to camera 2. We're going to put myself up in the corner if I haven't already done that. Go ahead and do that. So, fantastic. I got my my watercolor right here, and this is right where we left off yesterday. If you remember, we had taken our thumbnail, and we did the first layer of watercolor, and here we are right here. And now we're getting ready to do the second layer of watercolor, okay? On the second layer of watercolor, I got the light of the intensity in the colors right here. I want to make that more pronounced, and then I want to start to work back and develop back into the colors of the background and the middle ground, okay? Now we have to juggle that. We have to balance it. You know, we grab in this layer, we're going to grab the balls that we're going to juggle, which are going to be the channels, okay, the 4 channels. All right, we got the shape, which we have already established. We're going to add details, right, but we're not going to change any of the shape channels, because we've already laid those in with the India ink, waterproof India ink. That we can't change that, and we don't want to change that. We like the shapes the way that they are. Now we're going to add, like I said, you know, the more information with the shadows and whatnot, and the lights and the darks and all that. So that means we're going to adjust the channel of value, okay? And we're going to adjust the channel of the intensity of the color, and then we're also going to adjust the hue, okay, the temperature. Everything in the back is going to be cooler, everything in the front is going to be warmer as we go on. And we're going to optimize each one of those to fit our needs on this specific image, okay? So let's go ahead and get that started, all right, people? Because we're going to have some fun here, and it might run a little long, James. I'm sorry, okay? It might run a little long. If you got a problem with that, you could take it up with me in the comments, buddy, all right? Calling you out, all right, James? In fact, James, you know, I know you make some videos, right? You need to make your videos longer. What do you think about that, James? Huh, bruv? What do you think about that? A little touche. Good for the goose, good for the gander kind of thing, okay? All right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's go ahead and what I'm going to pick here is an anchor point. What does that mean? I'm going to pick a value that I want to set that I'm going to compare every other value to. Now I could do that with any of the channels. I'm picking value because I'm going to start with the Super Killer's dark value right here. I want those to be the darkest in the image. So I want to set that anchor point and then use that to compare every other dark value in the rest of the image. Okay. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to get some dark blue. And my strategy here is to approach the darkness in 3 steps, okay? The first step is this blue that we already put down. You see that right there? Now I'm going to go darker with the next dark blue, okay? And then my third step is going to be black, okay? And that's going to be the final step, okay? So I'm just doing these in stages. Now, you might think I'm putting in a pretty dark blue right here, but I tell you the truth, I'm not. As soon as it dries, it's going to dry lighter. And then when we go in and put in the black, you're going to see how black that black is. And I'm going to have to adjust the blues even darker still, you know, in order to match with the black. Now, I'm leaving the light blue uncovered. You know, I'm letting it show through. where I want the highlights in the black to be. And I'm aware, I'm already thinking that what I'm going to have to do as well is I'm going to have to come back and increase the saturation on that light blue. So I'm going to have to turn up that channel, the saturation, to really make it pop, to make it exciting. But that's later. That's going to probably be in the third and final layer that we're going to work on in this watercolor, okay? Now, if you don't come back and increase the saturation on those images, on the colors in the foreground, it's going to look washed out. It's not going to have the power that you're looking for. It's going to have too much gray. That's what I mean when I say washed out. The saturation is going to be too low. You're going to want to turn that saturation up so that you can fucking channel that power right into the viewer right there. Get them all excited. Get them saying, hey, let's go. You know, that's what we want. Now I'm going to come back down here and put some of this on the gun as well. Now I'm thinking the gun's like some sort of blue steel or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what Super Killer be doing. Now I did notice that I left out a little bit of right there, that little spot right there. You know, I forgot to color that in, and that happens. But that's why we go through this whole thing in, you know, layers. Because every layer gives us the opportunity to tighten up the artwork so that by the end of the layers, the artwork is tight, it's humming, it makes that powerful impact, okay? Subtle adjustments each time we go, all right? Now what I want to do right here is I want to warm up the floor. Okay, I want to warm up the floor close to Super Killer. So I'm just going to have a little bit of orange and actually red and yellow. I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to lay that down. Okay, now this is going to also, as I'm warming it up, because I'm putting another layer of paint on it, it's going to darken the value at the same time. Okay, so sometimes when you adjust one thing, it actually impacts two of the channels, or maybe more, I think. And then what we're going to do is use this as a base, you know, as a control this larger shape right here, and then work it back towards the background. Okay, and this is going to help to separate the mid-tone, break it up into warm and cool. Every layer or every shape actually has a warm and a cool. You got to think about that, okay? And so as you go along, you want to have a warm and a cool in every single layer that you work with, okay? Even if it gets really small, you want to have that warm and that cool. And that's going to add life, and it's going to make your images far more dynamic. Far more dynamic. And that's what we're all about here, right, people? We want that dynamic life, you know? We want that dynamic life. I got my timer working again today, so we're right about 17 minutes. Doing pretty good, doing pretty good. All right, now what I want to do is I want to cool down the wall and darken it at the same time. Value-wise, when I say darken, cool meaning hue, but I also want to desaturate it, okay? So I'm going to use the black to desaturate it. So I'm going to handle all three of the channels in this little wash that I'm getting ready to put on, okay? I desaturate it, I cool it down, and I'm going to darken the value, okay? So I'm just doing a blue with a little bit of black with just a tad bit of red, just to break it up a little bit, add a little bit of variety, and I'm going to let some of those underpinning of the previous layer shine through just a little bit, you know, give it a little bit of variety. You don't want just one solid tone, okay, people? The fastest way to kill your image is to do that. Lay down a fucking solid tone, and then you're like, I did a good job painting that solid tone. I paint like a house painter, and I did a good job. I don't know why my illustration looks so boring, though. I don't know why. I did a good job painting that tone, though. I don't know why it looks so boring. Well, bro, that's why it looks so boring, because you did such a good job. Do a little bit worse job, and it'll come to life. Just watch, okay? So we're going to, you know, just go ahead in here and do that. Now, I'm also keeping in mind that this is going to create a nice balance. Sorry about that. A nice balance to the arrows that I'm going to paint a different color. It's going to pop them out. We're going to get that nice contrast between low saturation with the wall and high saturation with the arrows, because I'm going to make the arrows, I don't know, man, some funny color or something, right? Because Green Arrow's got like super duper arrows. He's got some really cool arrows. So we're going to leave Green Arrow. You're going to leave him blue for right now, because that's going to be the underpinning of his color scheme, which I'm going to make green and black, okay? But he's off in the distance, so he's not going to be, you know, a true green. He's going to be cooled off a little bit and kind of go towards the blue hue. I tried to say blue and hue together right there, and I got blue, so that's kind of funny, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to take, I got this building, right, in the background, and it's right in front of a sky that's backlit, okay? So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take that building, and what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of a blue over it to cool it down. It's a little bit warm right now. I just want to cool it down just a bit. So we're going to take a little bit of blue and just manipulate that, cool that down, okay? At the same time, it's going to increase or decrease or make the value darker is what it's going to do, as you can see right there, okay? Now, I like how that looks. I need to work on that sky a little bit more, but I like where we're going with the image. It's starting to really come together and it's starting to really pop out the foreground. We got a nice transition from the warm temperature to the cool temperature in the mid-tone. We got the other character starting to pop out nicely. We got the wall as our anchor point as a nice gray. Then we got this kind of blue-purple in the lighter value of the background, and then also we have the nice sky, which we're gonna make a really nice orange kind of brown, burnt umber, orange, bluish kind of cloudy day, like it's a battlefield sunset or something like that. That's cloudy. I don't know. One thing that I want to do before I go on though is I want to set the anchor point in this apple. The apple needs to be a nice bright, highly saturated red. Okay, so I'm going to grab some alizarin crimson, a little bit with the rose, and I'm going to come up in here and I'm just going to do a little bit of this, put a little bit of the rose right there, the apple. Leave that highlight alone for the time being. Now I want to go ahead and, like I said before, there's always a temperature gradient in every object. So we're going to grab a little bit of blue, we're going to mix it just a little bit with the red, and we're going to come down here and put it in like a purple, okay, like so, right? It's just a temperature gradient, people. It's no big deal, nothing to be scared of, nothing to sniff at. Now we want to go ahead and continue that gradient by adding more blue. So this is just a straight blue right here, and we're just going to touch it in like that. I'm using the wet on wet technique right now, and there we go. That's the base for my apple. We're going to let that dry. Then we're going to come in and we're going to do a couple more things with it. I'm going to put a little bit of blue, very light blue, right here in the highlight. Make that a transition from the white to the light blue. And we're just going to go ahead and let the wet on wet deal with that, okay? Now I'm going to grab a little bit of green, little base color for green. And we're just going to go ahead and put it up here in the leaf of the apple. That's going to pop out really nice against the darkness and the low saturation, the black, basically, the gray. Every time I say low saturation, I'm basically saying the grays, the gray of the wall. Now, I do see that I have left it open. I didn't paint the wall around the leaf of the apple. That's the leaf of the apple right there. So let me go ahead and do that. Don't want it too dark, so I'm just going to pull away some of the water briefly, just quickly. And so there we go. So we got the apple hanging on his hair. Now I'm going to leave his hair white. I might put a little blood in there, but the white of his hair is really going to draw the focal point, the eye of the viewer, directly to where I want, to where he's pointing at with the apple, to where the arrows are pointing at. See how all the arrows are going in towards him? We're all pointing at him, and then he's pointing at the apple. So he's really pulling your eye on a little journey here through this image. Okay, and that's very crucial, right? I got everything in the image pointing at him. I got the debris pointing at him. You got the green arrow guy pointing at him. You got him framed in this nice black background so that it pops out the red. So there's a lot of things in here that I'm composition-wise, and we haven't really even talked about composition yet, but composition-wise, to lead the eyeball of the viewer to come and find these little treasures that I'm hiding in this image right here. And that's what it's all about, right? We don't want a one-dimensional fucking image. We want the viewer to be like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. And I want them to actually make that noise when they're looking at the art, right? We want them to be so delighted that they make some funny little noises, maybe a little snort, maybe a little laugh, you know, maybe they spit out their coffee. Now that if you're doing it right, you're getting them to spit out their coffee, and you're really excited, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here and start on the, now that we've established the apple is the red, I can do the background, the sky. Okay, so I'm going to get some orange. I got some orange over here. Now I'm going to desaturate it by mixing it with a little bit of the blue and a little bit of the red and a little bit of the black. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to come in here and we're going to do some dry brush technique, right? We're going to dry brush to make the texture for the clouds. And anywhere I don't like it, I'm just going to pick it up and erase it. I'm going to dip my brush in and I'm going to go back in with a clean brush and erase it, okay? And this is the start of the sky, okay? The start of the pattern of the sky, okay? Now we don't want to go darker than the wall, so keep that in mind, okay, people? But we do, also we don't want that lightness of the clouds to compete with the foreground or the hair, so we got to make that darker. But we're just going to leave it alone for a second, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a more saturated color in there, okay? Maybe a little bit of blue and a little bit of red to make a little bit of a purple to kind of add some nice counterweight, some variety of color before we really come in there and blast it heavily with the orange, which is what I'm going to do now. Okay, so let me just grab a fat stack of orange. That's what I just did. Maybe ran it through a little bit of blue just for a second to desaturate it. Then we're going to come in here and we're just going to go ahead and lay down the orange where we think we would like it. Okay, we can come back and manipulate it, which means change the shape. Now, one of the real big reasons why I wanted to do orange is because it's opposite, you know, of the green, and it's going to make the green really pop out, the green blue that we're going to use in our boy down here, green arrow. So now I got a clean brush and I'm coming up here and I'm just manipulating the shape of the clouds, okay? That's what I'm doing right now. I'm having a good time doing it. Just manipulating the shape of the clouds, you know, maybe where the sun is still popping through. We're having a good time. Just having a good time. Having a good time. Come over here before it dries and do the same thing. Having a good time. Now don't worry about the shape too much, because as it dries, it's going to change shape, first of all. And then we're going to come back in with a layer over it to try to get rid of the highlights in the clouds and push them softer back. Okay? Now we can see that our value is starting to get out of balance. Oh, hard to see right there? Let's pull it down a little bit. We can see that our value is starting to get out of balance when you compare the values in the sky and the values in the building right there. So we got to cool down that building a little bit, okay? Now he's going to have some light from the clouds, so we're going to mix a little bit of orange with a little bit of the blue, and we're just going to come in here and we're going to do that, okay? I picked blue to cool it down. I picked orange because it was a relative color that was in the clouds, so that you're going to have some of that color in the building, okay? So we're going to go ahead and manipulate that layer really quick, or really slow, however you want to do it. All right, there we go. Now we're starting to get that read of the building back, okay? But as we do that, we notice that it's starting to come into conflict with the read of the building, of the wall in the middle ground. And that's just how this goes, right? Once you start to manipulate the layers or the channels in different parts, in different layers in different parts of the image, it's going to mess up the layering that you had established before. The hierarchy that you established via the channels before. What does that mean? Well, that means, like, if I start to make a value darker in the background, then I'm going to have to adjust accordingly the values in the mid-tone and in the foreground. In the midground and the foreground, okay? That's why we came and we did these blues on Super Killer first. That's the darkest dark that I want it to be. Everything is going to be relative to that dark. I can bring up the values. I can darken the darks in the background, but not to compete with that. So I'm using that as my comparison. So that's probably about as dark as I want to make that building in the background. I can cool it off, but I don't want to make it any darker because I want to make this darker, and when I make this darker, the wall, I don't want it to compete with the blacks that's going to be right here. Okay, so now what we can do is we can come up, we can say, well, how black is that going to be right there? So let's go up and let's get full on black, right? The darkest dark that we can possibly get, full on black. And let's go ahead and put some dark in here. Now I'm going to leave some space where I'm assuming that the material that is in his mask is reflective, because that makes it more interesting. And it's going to be reflecting off of different parts of his body, right? And so the highlights are going to be blue. And I like how that looks. I think that looks good, okay? So we got some of that right there. Now we're going to go down here into the part on his chest. We're going to let the part on his clavicle, the bones right here on the neck, we're going to let that reflect, right? So we got that reflecting right there, right? And so we're going to come back down here and we're going to let it reflect off his chest. Some highlights, some reflections, that makes it fun. And then we're going to be sure to outline the crucial parts on his face and how the mask goes up above his nose right there. So we got the darkest darks right there. We're going to do the same thing on his arm. We're going to assume that there's going to be a rim light reflection on the edge of his arm, and then we're going to assume the same thing about the back of his arm, right here on the forearm, right there, like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to use the anatomy of the muscles to trace out. We're going to use the anatomy of the muscles to trace out the forearm and put the reflections where they deserve to be. We're going to do that like that. Then we got that muscle on the top of the forearm. We're going to go ahead and do that right there, like so. Now, let me go ahead and come down to the gun and put some black in the gun. We're going to just take a guess and say that the part that's facing away from the sky is going to be darker than the part that's facing towards the sky. So that's how I made my decisions to do that. Okay, so now we got the darkest darks, and see now we've reestablished the value hierarchy, right? So now we have more room to play value-wise with this back wall, right? So we're going to come back in, and we're going to choose to put the darks in the back wall. Okay, now we're going to grab a blue, and we're going to mix it with the gray, maybe a little bit of red just to muddy it up a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in shadows. Okay, we're going to leave the parts of the wall that are highlighted untouched. Those can be the lights, and then the parts of the wall that are in shadow, we're going to paint. And we're just going to guess on this using basic structure of boxes. Okay, so whichever part of the box is facing the light, we're going to go ahead and keep light, and whatever part of the box is not facing the light, we're going to darken. And it's going to make it simple like that. You got me, right? You got me, people, right? Well, because we like to keep everything simple around here. We don't like hard stuff. Hard stuff makes your artwork not good, okay? If you try to make it too hard. We like the simple steps, the surefire thing that makes it easy, so we can make sure that we get, an image that we want to get. Now, keep in mind that these values are going to dry lighter, right? So we're probably going to have to come back and touch on them again later, okay? Let's keep that in mind. Now I'm going to attack this wall right here. Now when I attack that wall, I want to make it more blue than black, so I'm going to do a blue-black, blue-gray. It's more of a blue-gray. And that's going to vary this out, and it's going to pop everything out. It's going to set off the foreground. It's going to separate nicely from the background. And that's how we do it right there. Very simple. It's not brain science. It's not rocket science, people. It's not, not brain surgery or whatever you want to call it, right? And you can make mistakes on the simple stuff and recover easily because you know how to fix it. That's the whole deal here is learning how to navigate your own way through an image. And that's what we're doing right here, okay? We're going to navigate make our own path, right? About how we feel and how we're excited about everything and blah, 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 blah. You got me. You got me. So now this is coming along quite nicely. It's starting to really pick up a strong fidelity, a balance of all those different things, a nice hierarchy, and a nice strength, right? We just established a very strong mid-tone. We're starting to saturate the colors, and we're starting to get it on. Okay? Now how does that look? All right, that looks pretty good. It's starting to look pretty good, right? That's the magic. The magic is starting to happen right now because of the simplified choices we made earlier. Okay, we put ourselves in a strong position to win, right? That's what we want, okay? We want a strong position to win, almost a guaranteed win. Now, what I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to put saturated color in the foreground on some of these arrowheads. I mean, arrow shaft, not shafts, whatever the, you know, feathers are on these arrows. I don't know what they are. I forget what they're called, okay? And maybe you got a couple red ones, I don't know. Maybe this is a red one. See, I'm putting in a really strong red right there. Look how strong that red is. It's almost so strong I gotta lighten up a little bit. Lighten up a little bit off of it, right? Because it has a very strong value, which I like, but the color's too uniform, so I need some variety in that color. That's just how you do that right there. And maybe you take a little bit of that red and you touch it in here with a little bit of the blue and make a little bit of purple. Give that a little variety, a little shadow, or maybe that's the way the feathers are on that arrow. I don't know, you know. And then maybe up here we're gonna go ahead and put a little orange. You know, maybe this is an orange arrow. I don't know. Maybe the orange arrow means it has some kind of tranquilizer. Maybe it's a tranquilizer arrow. I don't know. Maybe the green turquoise arrow means it's a you know, it's a narcotic or something. Maybe it's explosive or whatever. Okay. Now you can pick and choose whatever you want for those arrows, basically, because it's no big deal. The only one you got to watch out for is this one up here, right? See this one up here? This one up here? You got to be careful with him. The reason you have to be careful with him is because he's going to mess with the green arrow, and he's going to mess with our clouds. Okay. So what we have to do is we probably have to make it a dark value that's highly saturated. Okay. So we don't want to make it a green, obviously, because that's going to compete with him. We don't want that. So we'll probably end up making it a red. Don't want to make it an orange, it's going to compete with the clouds, right? We can maybe make it a blue. We can maybe make it something like that. But let's go ahead and just, since we already did a red, let's do a red. And what that'll do is it will do something else that's pretty fun. I'm going to tell you about it in a second. Let me put it down real quick. Okay. Now, what these reds are going to do right here are going to echo the note of the apple. Okay. So they're little color notes, they're echoing the apple, okay? So that's gonna combine how you look at the apple with how you look at the arrows, all right? So when you look at the apple, you're gonna see red, okay? So you're looking at so your brain is seeing red, you're taking in that channel red. So then you're gonna look for all the other channels that are red. So you're gonna look for this, then you're gonna look down here for this. That's how your brain works, that's how your eyes work, okay? So if you know that as an artist, you can use that to your advantage and add these repetitive color notes, repetitive value structures, these echoes throughout your artwork, and that adds yet another facet of intrigue, or another facet of imagination, or another facet of exploration that you can go through visually and have a little bit of adventure. It makes your image far more dynamic, and that's what the hell we're all about here. We're about some dynamic images, ain't we, people? We don't want no static images where people pass this over because it's boring. I didn't get into this game just to get into a gallery. I got into this game to get into a gallery, to have my stuff on the wall, so when people walk in, they go, that's what I want right there. That's exciting. I want that. That's what we're all about here, okay? So that's what we did today, okay, people? So let's look over that. Not too bad, not too hard. We're right at 38 minutes right now. Okay, we probably put in 15 to 20 minutes on the watercolor, but we established it. We took it to the next level. The magic is starting to happen. You see that, people? The magic is starting to happen. And tomorrow we'll take it to the last stage, even further. We'll finish off the values. We'll add the texture. We'll add the details, and it'll look fantastic, and you'll be excited. I want you to be excited. Get out there. Tomorrow we're doing a live stream, so don't worry about it. Okay. Then we got Sunday Fun Day, so have fun, do something else. Then on Monday, we're gonna come back and we're gonna get to serious work, and we're gonna make this thing a banger. So come on now, let's do that. Get out there.